Hi, I'm Luke Hindmarsh.
And I'm Damien Humphreys
We're,
in Deep Crit.
and today we're in Deep Crit looking at barbarians again, aren't we, Damien?
We are, yes.
Previously, part one, we looked at the options in the player's handbook for subclasses and indeed the class as a whole. Today, we're going to be looking at the subclasses introduced in Xanathar's Guide to Everything. They start on page 8, or the Barbarian at least starts on page 8. There's some interesting role-playing related material up front before we get onto the subclasses, but we're not going to discuss that today, maybe on some other occasion. And instead, so we're looking at 3 subclasses introduced here. You've got the Path of the Ancestral Guardian, the Path of the Storm Herald, and the Path of the Zealot. First up, Path of the Ancestral Guardian.
Yeah, so Path of the Ancestral Guardian, as the name very much suggests, the word guardian is in there. This is the barbarian who has that link to their ancestors and their heritage, and perhaps, it's their ancestors that come to their aid to aid them in battle when they're in their rage-fueled attack mode. And it's very much thematically about protection and kind of warding the rest of the party in a way. So your first ability that you get at 3rd level when you choose this path is Ancestral Protectors. And Spectral Warriors appear when you enter your rage. And while you're raging, the first creature you hit with an attack on your turn becomes the target of these warriors, which surround it and hinder it and make you the focus of its attack. So it will then have disadvantage against any attack roll that isn't against you, and if that creature was to hit any other creature with you that is with an attack that is not you, that creature has resistance to whatever damage is dealt by that attack. And this effect on the target ends early if your rage ends.
This is, tactically really potent. So a lot of what we've looked at before with barbarians is their ability to take damage and to dish it out. This is how to, as you say, to protect, to be that buffer for the rest of the party. And I think certainly more than the berserker, more maybe than the totem barbarian, this is going to require some tactical thought about how to best use this ability. Although, if you're part of a front line, you could be helping the other frontline fighter or whatever classes.
Yeah, we saw this used with good synergy in one of my campaigns with yourself as the frontline fighter,
Yeah,
and another member of our group as the barbarian with this subclass, who would stand behind you with I believe he used a great axe, might have been a halberd.
halberd. It was halberd. Yeah,
But it was a pole. Oh, it was a polearm weapon,
yeah.
and he had all the relevant feats that go with that. But he would attack over your shoulder, and then give the enemy disadvantage on attacking you, who was at the front,
Wearing lots of armor.
wearing lots of armor.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was a
yeah,
nice synergy, and it wasn't the only thing. It also informed his role playing, which I thought was very nice. The way he then took the whole protective aspect of the character and spread that out to the rest of the party are kind of my tribe now, and I want to
yeah.
protect them, and would make decisions, tactical decisions and otherwise, that took that role playing element into account, and I think that's the way it should be done. It was really very impressive.
It was, yes.
Before we move on, I want to mention something, because we're looking at the player's handbook. I can see that we've got a table here on page 9 that gives us the Path of Ancestral Guardian features. And I just want to mention that table is incorrect. The errata has been released to correct it. And in effect, the error is that Spirit Shield there says it's 2d8 at 6th level, 3d8 at 10th level, and 4d8 at 14th level. Those shouldn't be d8s, they should be d6s, as is made clear in the text below. So the table is wrong, the rest of it is right. At 6th level, at 6th level, you gain Spirit Shield, and you can use your reaction if you're raging, and you can see another creature within 30 feet of you, an ally. You can reduce their damage using your reaction by 2d6, and that can increase to 3d6 at 10th level and 4d6 at 14th level. So it uses your reaction, but this is nice to have the spirits interceding and being a physical barrier for damage for an ally.
Yeah, it's nice. It's, you and I have talked about, is it better to reduce damage or cause damage using as many of your possible actions, reactions, bonus actions, etc. But if you were in a position where you didn't have anything to use your reaction on in that round, and your ally took that damage, particularly squishy ally, they're within 30 feet, then this is potentially life-saving for that poor wizard or sorcerer who's got themselves outflanked.
I think that's also where you say life-saving. I think that's where I would use it, rather than the first time they take any damage. It's this attack is going to drop them, so I'm going to use my reaction. That's probably where I'd make that decision. Unless you haven't got other means of using your reaction, in which case you might be using it every single time you can.
Until later on when it synergizes with the capstone ability, which we will come to.
Absolutely.
But yeah, absolutely. So then at 10th level, the ability that you're going to get on this path is Consult the Spirits. So you get the ability to consult with your ancestral spirits, and this means that you can cast the Augury or Clairvoyance spell without using a spell slot or any material components. And there's a bit of flavour in there, so instead of creating a spherical sensor, Clairvoyance invisibly summons one of your ancestral spirits to the chosen location. Wisdom is your spellcasting ability for these spells. It's probably not going to be particularly high, but these are scrying spells, so they're divination spells, so there's probably not much that you're going to need to save against. Or
probably not.
But, yeah.
I like this. This always puts me in mind of, I've mentioned computer game, Fallout 2, there's a character called Sulik who's got his grandfather's bone through his nose, and it's something he draws like an inspiration from, and finds out about the world, and it's a very amusing feature, and I can see this as there being so many great ideas that you can play up with this feature to really make your barbarian more than just a combat beast, and I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a use outside of combat that gives you a little bit of scouting ability, a little bit of scrying ability for free at 10th level. You have to finish a short or long rest before you can use either spell again. So once you've chosen one or the other, you then have to wait until you've rested before casting it again. That's not a bad penalty. And it fits nicely with what we saw in the Path of the Totem Warrior with the Consult with Nature. It's
similar power level kind of change. It's not overpowered or it's neither overwhelming nor is it. It's serving a purpose outside of combat. That brings us on to the capstone ability at 14th level of Vengeful Ancestors, where these ancestral spirits, they're no longer just interested in protecting your allies. They're going to have a slap back for any enemy that dares to interfere. So this is where, as part of that reaction, using Spirit Shield to reduce the damage of an attack. In Spirit Shield, it's damage. With Vengeful Ancestors, it's the damage of an attack. So we'll deal with what that means in a moment. But the attacker takes force damage equal to the damage that your Spirit Shield prevents. And at 14th level, you're rolling 4d6 for the damage that can be prevented. So that's potentially pretty tasty. And when we talk about the decision between stopping damage or healing damage versus dishing it out, this takes away that decision. This is just you're getting both for your reaction. That's very nice.
Indeed. And this synergizes nicely with the other abilities of the class. As you say, it's worth pointing out that the Spirit Shield is when they take damage, but the Vengeful Ancestors is a damage from an attack. So it wouldn't count from an environmental hazard or an area of effect spell, something like that. But when it's a direct attack roll against them, whether that's a spell attack roll, a ranged attack roll, melee attack roll, all of those count. And then synergizing nicely with your very first ability, if they've already got resistance from your ancestral protectors, because you've attacked that enemy this turn,
Mm.
then you're reducing the amount of damage they take after their resistance.
This doesn't synergize, allowing you to use this reaction to be the attack, though. That has to be the attack action, doesn't it? So that would...
Yes. Yeah. That has to be the first attack on your turn.
I can't help this, but when I see that you can use Spirit Shield, so it could be used to protect against falling damage, and I can't help but think that these are vengeful ancestors of a barbarian, so they probably are attacking the earth as well. I mean, they are barbarians, so
yeah.
That concludes our look at the ancestral path of the Ancestral Guardian.
And the next primal path that brings us onto is the path of the Storm Herald, presented in Xanathar's Guide to Everything. So all barbarians harbour this fury within them. The path of the Storm Herald channels this into the forces of nature, the forces of the storm, to create certain magical effects that are in effect sometimes when you're raging, sometimes all the time. So the first ability that you're going to get from this is a Storm Aura. Starting at 3rd level, you emanate a stormy magical aura when you rage, which extends 10 feet from you in every direction, but not through total cover. And it has an effect that activates when you enter your rage, and you can then activate the effect on subsequent turns as a bonus action whilst you are still raging. You need to make a choice at 3rd level as to the environment that your Storm Aura reflects. Choose either desert, sea, or tundra, and your aura's effect depends on your chosen environment. You can change your environment choice whenever you gain a level in this class. So it's not fixed forever, but it's fixed for that level. If it requires a saving throw, the DC is equal to 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your constitution modifier. So the effects that you get at 3rd level, if you choose the Desert Aura, when you activate the effect, all other creatures in your aura take 2 fire damage each, and this increases to 3 at 5th level, 4 at 10th level, 5 at 15th level, and a somewhat underwhelming 6 at 20th level. And that is all other creatures within your aura, so that's friends and foe alike. If you choose Sea as your environment for this aura, when you activate the effect, you can choose one other creature that you can see in your aura, and that creature must make a dexterity saving throw. It takes 1d6 lightning damage on a failed save, half as much on a successful one, and that damage increases to 2d6 at 10th level, 3d6 at 15th level, and 4d6 at 20th level. And then if you choose the Tundra environment for your Storm Aura, when you activate this effect, each creature of your choice in your aura gains a whopping 2 temporary hit points, and this increases to 3 at 5th level, 4 at 10th level, 5 at 15th level, and 6 at 20th level. Initial thoughts, Luke?
Meh.
Yeah.
I mean, I really want to like the Storm Herald, path of Storm Herald, and then they give me at 3rd level these choices, which, they're not awful, but they're not very. So role-playing wise, this is cool,
Yeah.
and I think it's very nice to be tied to the land. It's just mechanically that I can't use those words.
Yeah.
I can't say what I really. It's not as bad as the Berserker. That's the nicest thing I can say about it.
I mean, when I first opened up Xanathar's Guide, when I first got it, new and excited to look at all the new classes, all the new subclasses revealed in, and I saw Path of the Storm Herald, I thought, I can play Thor. Yeah. I was left feeling rather Thor after reading it.
Yes, I would need to thaw you out and get you onto a different subclass, maybe. Let's look at it a bit more focused. So, Desert, 2 fire damage. I mean, whoop-de-doo to everyone. So, your friends the rest of the party are really going to love you for this. It could be useful against a load of goblins.
And it goes up to a maximum of 6 at 20th level.
Yeah.
6 fire damage at 20th level I held the
It's
max
taking a
slightly
bonus
too long.
action. It's taking
Yeah.
a bonus action. If it was there all the time,
Yeah.
as long as you were raging and you didn't have to give up your bonus action, fair enough. It's costing you a bonus action, which, okay, again, depending on whether or not you've got feats in your campaign, you may or may not be making such a use of, but please, probably have
Yeah, you
feats.
probably have
In
something
which
that
case,
uses your bonus action. Um,
yeah.
Action economy is a critical part of combat in 5th edition.
If I've if I've got another choice of something to use my bonus action on, you can be sure I'm not going to use it to do 2 fight. I mean, if it's a war of attrition against something that you just can't hit, you're not going to wear it down with 2 points of
No,
fire
no.
damage.
And it's the same with the sea. So it's a d6 lightning damage or half on a successful save. So 1 to 6, possibly 1 to 3 damage using your bonus action. There are other paths that give you a better use of your bonus action.
Yeah.
In fact, the Berserker
Probably
gives
other
you a
things you
better
could be
use
doing.
of your bonus action than this does. And you can
Yes.
see what we thought about the Berserker in part 1 of this series of videos.
Yes. Absolutely, you should check it out and maybe argue with us about that. Maybe argue with us about this. What are we not seeing? But looking at Tundra, 2 temporary hit points. Well, okay, it's to every creature of your choice in your aura.
But that aura only extends
your aura-
10 feet.
10 feet. Again.
And if anyone's that close to the Barbarian in melee combat, let's hope they have plenty of hit points to be that close to the front line.
Yes. At least they're not a sorcerer charging through to the front line.
And yeah, again,
Moving on.
that scales, but not very well, in my opinion.
I agree. I think it's thoroughly underwhelming for the third level ability. But will it pick up? Will the storm whip up to being something better? At 6th level, we get Storm Soul, where these are based on the environment you chose for your storm aura. So if you're desert for 3rd level, you can change that, but you then are stuck with whatever you chose for 3rd level has to be the same as for 6th level. Is that right?
You can change every level, but
yeah,
whatever you choose, all of these effects are dependent on the environment that you chose at each level. So if you've swapped between third and 6th level, you're still stuck with whatever you've chosen.
Yeah, but it lacks the flexibility of the Totem Warrior. Let's not rave about the Totem Warrior in this video. Let's focus on it. Sorry. So desert, you gain resistance to fire damage and don't suffer the effects of extreme heat, which is nice for overland travel, I suppose, in deserts and volcanic areas maybe. And as an action, you can touch a flammable object that isn't being worn or carried by anyone else and set it on fire.
Look, I lit a torch.
Yes. Okay, if you haven't got a wizard or anyone who can light a fire and you're in Icewind Dale, a tinderbox, yes. yeah. It has to be a flammable object, actually, so it's pretty useless. Yeah. I mean, okay. C, you gain resistance to lightning damage, can breathe underwater, and you gain a swimming speed of 30 feet, which is potentially, in the right campaign, amazing. The right situation to have that ability, you will really, really appreciate it. So I think that's okay. Tundra, you gain resistance to cold damage. Again, the aforementioned Icewind Dale, if you're being a naked barbarian. You don't suffer the effects of extreme cold, and as an action you can touch water and turn a 5-foot cube of it into ice, which melts after 1 minute. This action fails if a creature is in the cube. So great for cooling the mead or the blood of your enemies or whatever it is that barbarians drink. Any thoughts?
So, I mean, resistance to damage is never a bad thing. However, we're not going to go on about the other paths in this, but there are paths that give you resistance to all damage at 3rd level, or to much more damage. Anyway, one in particular that gives you resistance to everything except psychic at 3rd level. So it's quite underwhelming.
I know what you're thinking of.
It's quite underwhelming at 6th level.
Yes.
Not suffering the effects of extreme heat or extreme cold can be situationally quite useful. I played a campaign, it's set in Chult, where actually you couldn't wear heavy armour without suffering exhaustion because of the extreme heat. So, but then you're not wearing a heavy armour anyway as a barbarian. Extreme cold, as you said, Icewind Dale, or those Arctic campaigns could be quite useful. The best one of these is the sea ability. Resistance to lightning damage is okay. Being able to breathe underwater and have a swimming speed of 30 feet that's not too bad at all.
No, I actually think that the sea is the storm, is the environment choice that saves this subclass the most. I initially loved the idea of the desert, but I think it's mechanically the sea is probably my option at each of these sections, and mostly that's decided by the 6th level ability.
Indeed. So then moving on from the 6th level abilities, at 10th level you get the feature of Shielding Storm. So you can use your Mastery of the Storm to protect others. So each creature of your choice has the same damage resistance you gained from your Storm Soul feature at 6th level whilst they are in your Storm Aura. Again, that aura only extends 10 feet from around you. So it's a 20-foot diameter. It's not paltry, but it's not particularly huge when you compare it to some other classes that have those kind of protective auras. And they gain the same damage resistance. Meh.
Oh, if this were part of the 6th level ability, I would be much more positive about it. This, okay, looking at we've mentioned with the Ancestral Guardians, we've mentioned in other videos, but the Totem Warrior, for example, and the Commune with Nature abilities at 10th level, they're not the kicking everyone down, stomping on the enemy type abilities. They're more utility or role-playing based, something social, whatever, exploration based. Here, this is just a slap, as far as I'm concerned. We could have made this a decent, really good subclass, or at least hold its own. And at 10th level, what do we do? There should have been at 6th level, and there should be something else here, like I don't know, you summon the storm in some way to change the weather in the area or something. I mean, I don't know, why not? Why not have you change the air, the surroundings?
If you look at, I mean, we're not comparing class to class, but if you look at some of the abilities that we'll look at in a later video on sorcerers, that the Storm Sorcerer gets, the ability to manipulate the wind and the weather around them, that would have been better than this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that leads us to the capstone ability, Raging Raging Storm. Yeah. 14th level, based on that same environmental choice you've made, which of course, as we've said, you can switch, but then, it has to be the same the whole way through. Desert, so this is again dependent on that aura. Immediately after a creature in your aura hits you with an attack, you can use your reaction to force that creature to make a dexterity saving throw. And on a failed save, the creature takes fire damage equal to half your barbarian level. So 7 damage plus the 6... No. Sorry. At 14th level, you would be doing, 4 damage from your desert aura already.
Yeah.
So presumably they enter, they take 4 damage, then they take 7 damage.
If they fail their save.
If they fail the save, and if they don't fail the save, they take nothing.
And the save is based on your wisdom modifier, which obviously is massively high being a barbarian, because wise barbarians are all the rage. Pun intended.
I see what you did there. C. So when you hit a creature in your area with an attack, you can use your reaction to force that creature to make a strength saving throw. On a failed save, the creature is knocked prone as if struck by a wave. I quite like that. I think that's quite good. But then when we looked at, we've looked at other barbarian subclasses that could knock you prone, and there was no requirement for a save. Admittedly, I think at a high... Well, no, that was also a capstone ability. So this is... I'm not going to name Totem Warrior again. Oh, I have. Okay. Sorry. This is just bad. That shouldn't have a save attached to it. Why? Whoever did this hadn't read the subclass that they've put in the player's handbook. Anyway, Tundra. Unless you want to say anything about
it uses your
right
reaction rather than your bonus action. Is the only difference. But no, I agree with you completely. I was just perhaps trying to be a bit of a devil's advocate and claw something good out of this subclass.
Save that for when we do the Warlock, please. Right. Tundra. Whenever the effect of your Stormer is activated, you can choose one creature. It gets a strength saving throw or speed's reduced to 0 because it gets a bit frosty. You better be fighting Frosty the Snowman, because with this particular subclass, it's about the only thing you're going to be able to handle, in my opinion. I know. It's not as bad as the Berserker, is it?
I don't think it's far off, to be honest. I think it looks better, but it's possibly more of a trap. The Berserker is easier to see the badness. This has got badness hidden behind pretty words, and things that you think, oh, that sounds nice. And like you said,
the illusion of choice.
Yeah, the illusion of choice. And like you say, from a role-playing perspective, it's very evocative. You know, that Storm Barbarian. It's very, I can really get into the idea of role-playing a Storm Herald Barbarian, you know, with lightning flashing in the eyes and all the hair standing on end, you know, and a voice like the roaring sea and all that. It just doesn't back it up with any mechanics.
The kind of guy who puts sand in your sandwiches all the time because they're a desert storm. So, if this is the problem, so we're looking at this mechanically. Mechanically, it's just role-playing wise. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I don't think from a role-playing perspective, I wouldn't put down any of the subclasses or any of the classes. There are times when some of the classes or subclasses can make it difficult to roleplay them well because you get stuck doing the same thing, and that's not an issue here. What the issue here is that mechanically you're having to hope that you're not in a heavy combat campaign with a DM who's going to, you know, create encounters that really punish you if you're not a strong character. I mean, I think this is a difficulty.
Yeah.
This is a difficulty to how to DM for this, because you would have to understand that this is a weak subclass, and a player is should be making a conscious choice. I want to role play this kind of character. I accept the fact that mechanically I'm going to be weaker than I could have been if I'd chosen a different subclass.
This is a reason to have a good and robust session 0 to set up those expectations of what people want to play, and what type of campaign you want to run.
Or if you haven't covered that in a session 0, when you come to change your subclass, saying to your DM, look, I know that the Storm Herald is not particularly strong, and if they don't, send them here, let them see this video. And I know if we're wrong, disagree with us, but I think you can have a chat with your DM and say, look, I'm making a decision because I want to role play. I just want to know that you understand that I'm losing something from the mechanics side of things to just, you know, for the role play. Which is a good decision to make. I would absolutely be pleased with a player doing that.
Never a bad decision,
and I wouldn't
to
punish
choose
them for
role-playing over mechanics, in my opinion. But it depends on your dungeon master. It depends on your game table. It depends on the style of game that you and your friends enjoy playing. What kind of story you enjoy telling.
If you're doing a dungeon crawl and everyone else in the party is optimized and you rock up with either a Berserker, or maybe not even, or a Storm Herald, that people are not going to be too pleased with you.
Not best impressed. So this ends our look at the path of the Storm Herald, primal path available in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and now we will move on.
Finally, for this video, we're looking at the path of the Zealot, where you are inspired by your deity to descend into a fury of divine rage. And frankly, given how powerful this subclass is, it is a divine rage. You get at 3rd level, when you choose this subclass, Divine Fury, and it's aptly named. You can channel your fury into weapon strikes while you're raging. The first creature you hit on each of your turns with a weapon takes extra damage, extra to all the other damage they might be taking from you. 1d6 plus half your barbarian level. The extra damage is necrotic or radiant. You've got to choose that when you take the feature, so you're stuck with it. It's not optional. Subsequently, it's not optional on the other attack. But this is solid extra damage.
Solid extra damage. Very nice. And also, you know, if that attack happens to be a critical hit, you're doubling the dice on that as well.
Yeah.
So because it's an extra dice damage, it gets doubled on a critical. This is a solid, strong third level feature.
Which scales, admittedly not massively, because you'd only be doing plus 10 damage at 20th level, but that's still plus 10 damage.
Still
Plus
plus
a
10
d6.
damage. For free. It
For
doesn't
free.
take any extra action.
Doesn't cost you a reaction. Doesn't
Yeah.
cost you a bonus. Any of those things.
And speaking of free, the other third level ability you get with this path is Warrior of the Gods. Your soul has been marked by Tempest or whoever your deity is for endless battle, endless warfare. And if a spell, such as Raise Dead, has the effect of restoring you to life, not undeath, so not animate dead, but a Raise Dead, a Revivify, a Resurrection, any of those spells, the caster does not need material components to cast this spell on you. This is really nice, right?
Yeah, well, mechanically it's really nice. I am, role-playing wise, I like the tension of death being relatively final, with rare use of any kind of resurrection ability or raising of dead. In a long campaign where someone's been attached to their character and they really didn't want to die, fair enough. But personally, when my characters die, they're dead, and their souls almost never want to come back because it costs me the tension. So, from my perspective, I don't like this. But mechanically, it's brilliant.
But that's your choice as the player at that time, because all resurrection spells depend on the soul being willing. And if I, as a player, say, and I've done this, I've had a character die, a beloved character that I played for a long time, that was a real essential synergistic part of the party. It was one of those real devastating moments that you get in games of Dungeons and Dragons. One of those real heartfelt, oh my god, the whole party, everybody around the table was, this is tragic.
Yeah.
However, that character's philosophy was that death was the ultimate freedom. They believed in freedom. They believed in freedom of all sorts, and that life is actually was a chain that kept them here, and death was the ultimate freedom. So when it came time for the cleric to cast Revivify, they said no. Well, actually, the cleric did speak with dead first and asked them. And they said no. They said, no, I don't want to come back.
It's a lovely ability, and I'm sure lots of gaming tables, I'm sure lots of people who play D&D like to be able to raise the dead. I perhaps because it's not, I played lots of other systems where you're dead, and I've got into that mindset, so perhaps that's why that's my attitude. Focused on the subclass, it's cool.
Yeah,
getting distracted by the philosophy.
Very cool. Even Revivify, a third level spell, costs 300 gold pieces worth of diamonds, which the spell consumes. So this can save the party a lot of money.
And you can be dead for an awfully long time and be resurrected to never escape fighting for your god. But that brings us along to your fanatical focus at 6th level, where the divine power fuels you and can protect you. So if you fail a saving throw while you're raging, you re-roll it, but must use the new roll. And that can be used once per rage, which you could ditch your rage using a bonus action and re-rage as a bonus action in the next turn to be able to use that again. I suppose you wouldn't even need to ditch.
You can technically re-rage whilst you're raging.
Yes, that's true.
One bonus action.
Which has consequences we're going to talk about.
Yes, indeed, yeah. But yeah, again, this is free. It's very nice, the ability to re-roll a saving throw. Could be clutch. Again, it's not taking anything away from the class. It's adding to the class.
It's not the strongest 6th level ability. It's not the weakest. It's good, I think.
Yeah. Brings us on to Zealous Presence, which is your 10th level ability. And this is where you learn to channel divine power to inspire that zealotry in others. It's the evangelical priest barbarian leading his cohort into battle. So as a bonus action, you can unleash a battle cry which is infused with your divine energy. And up to 10 other creatures of your choice within 60 feet of you that can hear you, they don't have to be able to see you, just be able to hear you, then gain advantage on attack rolls and saving throws until the start of your next turn. And once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest.
Oh, this is. I mean,
Advantage on attack rolls and saving throws.
within 60 feet, up to 10 creatures. I mean, great.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, I like it from a role-playing perspective. We bring that in. And just going to contrast. I'm sorry, berserkers. Sorry, I'm gonna have to contrast with the ability that berserkers get to intimidate with one. And if you flicked this round as a war cry for the berserkers and made it disadvantage to any creature of your choice within 60 feet, up to 10 of them, then suddenly the berserkers rather puny ability to intimidate, which costs an action, doesn't it? Because this is just a bonus action. Would be good, but it's not. Whereas this is.
This is good, yeah.
Very good.
You know, especially if you've got an initiative roll that's higher than, say, the dragon. You know, the dragon's just come across for a pass. You can see it wheeling around in the distance, ready to come back for another strafing run. You know, it hasn't used its breath weapon yet. It's coming in. You know that breath weapon is coming.
Oh, yeah.
Here you go. Everyone has advantage on their saving throws against that breath weapon. Perfect. Lovely.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's not a choice. They get attacked. Their attack rolls are bumped up, and their saving throws. It's not and or.
No, exactly. Yeah. You can only use it once per long rest, which stops it from becoming too overpowered. So rather than doing it once a rage or so on, because this is a powerful ability at 10th level.
Speaking of overpowered, rage beyond death. Now, this is, when I say overpowered, it depends on a ruling that one makes as a DM. But we'll deal with what it is first. So at 14th level, the capstone ability of the Zealot. You can shrug off fatal blows. So when you have 0 hit points, you're not knocked unconscious. You still have to make death saving throws, but actually, who cares? Because if you fail them, you don't die. If you would die, you die when your rage ends. That's it, really, and you die then only if you still have 0 hit points. So all you need is for within that minute, someone to give you 1 hit points worth of healing, or to be able to drink a potion, which, amazingly, though you're raging, you can still do. So this is as close to immortality for a 14th level character as you can get, I think. Now the exploits. I've seen people talk about. Do you want to deal with this? And I'll pitch in.
So yeah, it's been spoken about. We alluded to it earlier about being able to start another rage whilst you're in a rage already. And Jeremy Crawford himself was asked this question on Twitter, and he said that there's nothing in the rage mechanic that stops you from raging again whilst raging. So an exploit that has been mentioned on the interwebs is to keep raging. At 14th level, you have 5 rages. I can go up to unlimited at 20th level. Could you just keep raging and never die?
No.
No,
because
is the short answer.
You're ending the rage where you're ending a rage and starting another one in that bonus action. So the moment you take that bonus action, you're dead. That's the way I'd rule it.
That's the way I'd rule it as well. I'd rule that yes, you can take another bonus action to start a new rage, but you are starting a new rage, not extending the same rage. Everything about rage says that cannot be extended past a minute, and if you choose to end it early, it ends early. So by starting a new rage, you are choosing to end the current rage early, and you will suffer any effects of ending that rage. So the same for the Berserker, you would suffer that level of exhaustion.
You see, I'm going to reflect on what I've just said, and I may be wrong about one thing. You are not using the bonus action to end your rage early. It still only lasts 1 minute, and you're starting a new rage. So I think as DM I'd say fine, but when the 1 minute is up, the first rage ends, and that's the rage that counts for whether you die or not. I might rule it like that, but I must say, who am I? I'm a nobody, but I'm going to disagree with Crawford. He hasn't considered this. He hasn't considered the effects of what he said.
I don't think he specifically said about this ability. He's just answered the question about can you rage whilst raging.
But his answer is being used to suggest that this makes the character immortal in effect, and that's just.
And your table, your rules.
Yes, of course.
You don't
Of
have to
course.
listen to a ruling by Jeremy Crawford on Twitter. You don't have
Or
to
me.
listen to them, or Luke, whoever the hell he
Ever.
is, Heinvage, or Damien. What are you talking about, Humphreys?
Yeah.
You don't have to listen to any of that. You don't even have to listen to the rules that are in the books.
Yeah.
Um,
You don't have
it
to
is
listen to your
your
player
game.
on this. Your player can say, "But I'm immortal," and it's no, that's my rule. I think the only thing is to say, and I would say this when a character got this ability, I'd say, just so we're very clear,
Yeah.
I do not rule it in this way, and this is how I will apply it, so you know from the offset, and it's
Yeah.
not going to be a surprise to you. I'd probably say it when they chose Path of the Zealot at 3rd level, and I would say it again at 14th level to say, just to remind you, this is how I'm going to rule on this.
And that's important to have that clarity with your players over rulings that can be construed in various different ways.
Another way of looking at it with the, just going to go back to the Berserker, which we keep mentioning. I like talking about Berserker because I feel they've been hard done by. When they take their level of fatigue, you don't get to dodge that by starting another rage during the rage you've already got.
No.
That would be the way I would rule it.
Yeah. You still get the fatigue when that first rage ends. Whether you rule it that it ends when you start
On the
new
bonus
rage or at the end of a minute. Yeah. But overall, this is a very strong subclass, right?
It's up there. It's easily a challenge for Totem Warrior, I think. I don't think it's better than Totem Warrior because Totem Warrior gives you a bit more choice. But this is what the Berserker should have been.
Yeah.
I like yeah. I mean, I like the way this lets you play. If you've ever played like Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, the sort of flagellant type character, this plays into that idea. It's another way of having a barbarian, and I think it's great.
And yeah, you could play this class and flavour it as a Berserker really easily.
Yeah.
As a Berserker of a deity.
I think you could drop that and just say, we'll use the mechanics, and that the role-playing skin is my choice. That would be the way I'd approach it. Yeah.
So this ends our video on our look at the primal paths offered to the barbarian in Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Everything, indeed.
Anything and everything.
And if there is anything, or indeed everything that you disagree with in our analysis of these subclasses, then do please, pop a comment in the comments below. We're always happy to have a discussion over our opinions and your opinions, and carry on that debate in the comments. And also, while you're there, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the bell to get notified of more videos from us. And we'll see you next time when we cover the new paths offered in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Thank you.
Absolutely. Cheerio.